Of the rebuild is fairly straightforward. I spend more time cleaning, polishing, removing carbon stains and so forth than I do upon the rebuild part of it. First of all, as I remove the die-cast ends that are secured on the car with screws at the roof line and at the frame. They perform the same for the rounded observation. They have two screws. Note, however, that the screw on top, you might not want to get these mixed up, might be countersunk, which is good. It's smooth. And the screws on the bottom side underneath should be the flathead type. Once the screws are removed, the die-cast car ends can be removed by gently pulling on them by hand. If they won't release by hand, then I use a really small, sharp, flathead screwdriver, or any similar tool will probably do, to pry them very gently by twisting the screwdriver. And then I wash these in a blue-green degreasing soap and a small nylon brush. I noticed Mr. Barker, I think, even polished these, but I chose not to. I liked a little bit more natural look to them, but I do want them to be clean. And of course, I use my usual practice of snap ring pliers to spread the trucks, applying pressure to the metal truck frame, not the centered iron side frames, to remove the axles and wheels. Now, this is an interesting fact that Deeger discovered, and it is documented in the literature in fine print. It took me a while to find it. You might find, upon disassembling one of these, that there are small washers or spacers between the plastic wheel and the side frame of the truck. To date, no one that I've talked to collaboratively understands why those might have been inserted. But they're there, and they're small. They're kind of like a spacer washer on the steam locomotive's worm gear, for the steam locomotive's worm gear. Meaning that if you pull the wheels out and you don't know they're there, and you wash the wheels or you shake them or throw them around, the washer may come off. I'm going to replace them simply because this train doesn't belong to me. This belongs to someone else, and I'm going to return it to them in factory condition. But I did document and find out that those washers do exist, and I'm going to put them back on. The next thing I do is I simply remove the white paper diffuser by gently pulling it from one end. Note that it's probably going to contain near the center, not always exactly at center, a double or triple line and approximately 3 inches wide additional diffuser paper. In this case, it's underneath the Vista Dome, so that may be present. Now, when you pull these out, they're probably going to have a curvature due to age, and it's not unlikely they'll be slightly stained. You can even see the stain line right here on this one. That's probably done by sunlight. What I'm going to do, or what I did and will continue to do, is I'm going to wrap this in the opposite direction around a paper towel roll and gently put a rubber band around it to hold it. I'm going to, in other words, start bending it in the opposite direction, because you can see on the underneath side it has less stain. On the original side, there are visible stain lines. Same way on the double liner. So when I rotate it around, I'm simply going to rotate this as well and restaple it with one staple in the same relative position. What happens is that if it's turned around and wrapped around the paper towel roll for several days, it'll begin to take on the opposite shape. Although not perfectly and not permanently, but it'll be just enough so that you can slide this back in, and because it's been reshaped, it will apply outward pressure to the silhouettes and the windows and make the diffuser paper fit much more tightly against the windows. I've had several people comment that, wow, how'd you get all that new diffuser paper in there? I didn't put new diffuser paper in there. I simply used the current diffuser paper, reversed it for the outward pressure that it would apply, and eliminating the stains. And because it pushed up against the silhouettes and the plastic windows, it provides a much tighter, more attractive fit. Now, there was a time before I started that practice, both in passenger coaches and cabooses, that I went and purchased this paper. Many of you have asked, where did I get diffuser paper that matched this color? Well, I don't know that I got the exact perfect color, and I did not get original stock from American Flyer stock. All I did was I took several examples of this paper to a print shop, not a copy shop, not a shipping copy shop that simply does copying. I took it to a printer that does formal printing, such as invitations, stationery, and things like that. Showed them the paper. I said, I need something that is a similar weight and a similar shade. What do you have? They pulled out their entire stock, and we simply compared it. Once I felt like I had something that was equally attractive as this, I simply bought some sheets. Yeah, it was a little expensive, relatively expensive, but it paid off. But that was before I started noticing that if I paid a little bit more attention and gave a little bit more diligence to reusing what was already there, I can make good use of it and put it back and make it very acceptable to the owner. Now here's the paper from 663, the observation car. I have not adjusted it, and you'll notice how it closes up and curls underneath itself on one end. It likewise has some stains, but this is what I'm going to correct or improve upon by wrapping it in the opposite direction around a paper towel roll. I don't tightly bind it, and I don't want to do anything that will damage it. I just want to put it in that other position so that when I reinsert it, I'm getting a little bit of outward pressure along these bottom lines and not so much of a gap of light or pulling the shade back from the silhouettes or the window. You'll notice even that creates a little bit of darkness. Don't want that. Now the remainder of the rebuild is pretty straightforward. This is as far as I take the disassembly. I've already completed the washing on this one. I am going to polish the trucks. I'm going to clean as well as I can along the chassis to remove surface rust. I'm going to remove the light bracket and socket, polish both, check the wiring, although the wiring would be a little bit of a challenge to get back in there because it's connected at the trucks, but not impossible. I'm going to complete the polishing of all the contact wheels. This one needs a lot of work because you can see the carbon that is built up on the wheel, but those will look like new when I'm finished. Clean all that up, maybe put down a coat of CRC 226 for longevity, and then once I get it completely reassembled, and by the way, when I reinsert these with the washers on the plastic wheels, which they had, I'm going to drop gear lube into each one of these journal box locations and then reinsert the axles for smoothness and the most frictionless performance that I think I can get out of these trains. The final step that I take after all the parts are on there and to minimize handling is the polishing of the exterior. Now, just to review one more time and summarize, I'm going to use, and this one's been thoroughly washed on the exterior, but you can see some oxidation and other types of marks. By the way, I do not remove the Vistadome on these unless it is damaged. These pins on these Vistadome windows are sealed on the other side, and I don't see any reason to break that seal. I was able to clean the interior of this Vistadome simply by using the bottle brush that I cleaned the interior of the car with, and you'd be surprised how much rust came out of the interior on some of these. I don't remove those. It's just too risky because of the age and brittleness, possible brittleness of these windows. Now, there was one that I did that had a huge hole in the corner right here, and of course I bought through my vendor partner for parts, bought the Vistadome piece window and replaced it. Looked great. Now back to what we were talking about before. The exterior has been washed. I will not rewash it. The next step will be along the sides will be the wax, turtle wax, which I found to be very acceptable. Applied very carefully and then removed carefully, including along each one and between all of these seams, and including the window braces. Seems to work extremely well in removing stains and also using and leaving a smooth protective coating. On the top on the roof line from here all the way around to the other side, I'm going to use Meguiar's polish. I have a lot of faith in Meguiar's products on my automobiles, and I saw no reason not to use it. And I did pilot and test it to do a proof of concept on one end of the car, about from here down on one end. Let it sit for 24 to 48 hours, saw no reason not to use it. It did provide extensive, much better cleaning, but I'm not trying to convince you to use Meguiar's and Turtle Wax. I'm just saying that that's what I chose to do, and it worked well for me, and I had it in my inventory rather than going and buying yet another solvent. I have heard others who I collaborate with sing the praises of the aluminum polish, but I didn't want another semi-expensive bottle of solvent just to do the tops on these cars. And then the final step in the process will be the waxing of the top and then the rub down of the whole thing. And for that I use a microfiber cloth, a fairly large microfiber cloth, and I sit around and polish on it for a long time, watching television or doing whatever, because I want it to look very, very handsome. And I think you're going to see that in the operational videos, the railhead test I'll do for these.